that because of your increased capacity to be the presence of love, because you opened up to it, does not become sidetracked by judgments resulting from seeing that your buddies, your friends, your kindred spirits are more ignorant than you thought they were. Hey, if they're more ignorant than you thought they were, and you see that they're really committed to their ignorances, my God, here they were, ones you thought were on their spiritual path and more enlightened, and they're less enlightened than you thought. What must this mean about the whole world? The whole world must be in a bigger mess than I thought. And it's going to be impossible to be an agent for change. That's what the ego does. When you are filled with the willingness to be the presence of love more fully. And so you find yourself faced with the requirement to examine your commitment to be the presence of love, to find out if this is now the new level of what it will take to cause you to abandon being the presence of love, because it's either hopeless, or it's not worth it, or they're not worth it. You see? Greater clarity and a willingness to be the fuller presence of love will uncover to you just how much love is needed. And the temptation will be to turn your back on the altar and be bothered, disgusted, depressed by how great the ignorance is. And then once again, all by yourself, unconnected from your source, feel like giving up and forgetting that all you have to do is turn around again and make commitment to the light in the middle of the altar, which ultimately you're going to find out is you yourself. Okay. Continue.
The children of God are entitled to the perfect comfort that comes from perfect trust.
You're entitled to it. It's a birthright. It doesn't have to be earned. It's yours. Continue.
Until they achieve this, they waste themselves and their true creative powers on useless attempts to make themselves more comfortable by inappropriate means.
Yes, by creating a better, more beautiful temple, or creating a better, bigger, stronger fortress, or trying as a separate private force to make good happen. These are all attempts to make themselves more comfortable by inappropriate means. Continue.
But the real means are already provided and do not involve any effort at all on their part.
Oh no, the ego says. It doesn't involve any effort. Well, where can willfulness come into play? Where can intent come into play? Where can purposefulness come into play? You see? Well, purposefulness can't come into play, but purpose can. And it's already present, and it's already the very presence of you, you see. Continue.
The atonement is the only gift that is worthy of being offered at the altar of God because of the value of the altar itself. It was created perfect and is entirely worthy of receiving perfection.
Yes.
God and his creations are completely dependent on each other. He depends on them because he created them perfect.
You see, if he hadn't created them perfect, he wouldn't dare depend on them.
Wow.
He depends on them because he created them perfect. Continue.
Can I make a comment?
Yes.
A few years ago at a gathering, someone asked you how you awakened. And you said, by getting in touch with my innermost feelings. And it seems to me that you were looking at the altar, and correct me if I'm wrong, because I certainly don't want to lapse into an intellectual, discourse. I want to try and stay with what we're seeing here tonight.
Indeed, you are correct.
So you were being honest with yourself?
I was being honest with my capital S self.
And you just...
Not honest with my ego, that's for sure.
What did you do next? In other words, how did you stay with what you saw without turning your back? Is that a question that's a little bit, misleading to,
I made commitment to it. And nothing less, nothing else.
Just simply that?
Yes. That is the only option you have available to you.
And you maintain your integrity all through the...
Well, my integrity maintained me. Your integrity will maintain you. You don't have any private integrity to keep you on an even keel through this process, you see. You have an inherent integrity that is the flame, the light, the illuminate love that's in the center of the altar. That's your integrity. And it will see you through as long as you keep your vision there. As long as that is where you give your attention.
My ego says that's impossible.
Of course it does. But it always lies. So just because your ego says it's impossible, hey, consider the source. And if your ego is incapable of anything except lies, then it must be telling you that it is utterly possible.
It's not telling me who and what I am and
Never.
who and what everyone in this room is.
Never. Yes.
Excuse me. These past couple of weeks have been very intense and very much what this whole night has been about. And I want to ask you, is that what's happening to me?
Yes.
I'm not imagining or making something out of something. I've been feeling extremely peaceful and been able to walk into situations that I joined the other person in arguments and long-standing years and years of fighting, and I was able to sit there and be completely in my peace and not feel overwhelmed by what was going on and still love that other person and walk away still in my peace. is that, it was that, this experience.
Exactly.
It was.
Yes, it was not you experiencing being irresponsible or being insane.
And it did make a huge difference in that situation.
Absolutely.
It really did move some other people too.
It did indeed.
Okay. And I've kept, that feeling didn't go away, and I don't ever want it to go away. I understand this. That's the first time I've ever understood anything in one of these things. That's just so cool. Thank you.
You are welcome.
Where was I?
And do not involve any effort at all on their part, but the real means are already provided and do not involve any effort at all on their part.
Is that from the first edition?
Just a moment. I'm sorry. You were at, he depends on them because he created them perfect.
He gave them his peace so they could not be shaken and could not be deceived. Whenever you are afraid, you are deceived, and your mind cannot serve the Holy Spirit.
Mm. And last week, the last meeting, Paul demonstrated his willingness in the presence of fear of continuing to give his attention to the altar and persisting no matter how much his ego was clamoring for his attention and his allegiance. And that is what each one of you must do. Because it's the answer. Continue.
This starves you by denying you your daily bread. God is lonely without his sons, and they are lonely without him.
What on earth could that mean? How could God be lonely?
Because of the separation.
I have used the word sad. I have indicated that those of us who are awake are sad at not being in full communion with all of you. And yet, you might say that's inconsistent for one who is supposedly awake. If you have a 100-watt light bulb, and you have a dimmer switch, and you have it turned down so that only 50 watts is being used, the light is less full, it is dimmer. And because the light was created to function at 100 watts, at full illumination, when its full potential isn't being used, something is missing. And there's an experience of the somethingness missing. And so when so many are caught in a fantasy dream and are blocking themselves from full communion with all of us who are awake, the difference between fullness and the degree of communion that exists now is felt. It feels like something, and it is clear to those of us who are awake that the feeling represents something not natural. And so there is an involuntary and spontaneous desire to help dissolve, to get rid of this inequity, this imbalance, so that the feeling of wholeness, which is our birthright, ours, those of us who are awake, and yours, it is our birthright to be altogether experiencing that fullness and wholeness. And so, to say that God is lonely, or for me to say that we are sad, is simply a means of conveying that we can feel your absence. We can feel your unconsciousness of us. And so it is as though there is a hole, even though you are totally available to us. If you're not totally available, even though we are totally available to you, until you are totally available to us and experiencing yourselves and us fully, the experience of the meaning of the word natural is missing, you see? And so we long to be with you fully, as your essential being longs to be with us fully. You see?
Could you tell us what daily bread is? It says daily bread in this paragraph.
Your daily bread is the gift of God that God makes of himself, called creation, called mind being aware of its infinity and experiencing every subtle nuance of what it is infinitely in every aspect of what it is being infinitely, including you. Your daily bread is the unending gift of being that God gives you by being you anew forever. And that daily bread, that eternal sustenance, if you will, that is God expressing himself forever fully as you, is what you find will infill you when you stop having your back to the altar and turn around to give your attention and interest to, so that you might be infilled with it. And then, as I said, find that your vantage point apart from the altar is something you don't want to energize anymore, so that you are like a back in the body experience. It's like a back into the spirit experience, where you are snapped back in, and the light is you, and you are the light, and you are the light that God is being right there. You see?
In certain cultures, there is a word like in Hawaiian mana, in Chinese chi, in Vedic or Indian philosophy prana, which is considered an ambient energy that's everywhere, that we can absorb, and we feed on it. It's very subtle energy. Is this an interpretation of that same concept?
Those are interpretations of what I am saying. The problem is that in many ways, prana and mana and so on nurture the physical body that is still seen as matter. And that is not what we are talking about. Okay. So God is lonely without his sons, and they are lonely without him. And of course, you all know that you're lonely. You're miserable. I mean, you're not experiencing your joy, even though you're generally happy. Okay, continue.
God is lonely without his sons, and they are lonely without him. They must learn to look upon the world as a means of healing the separation. The atonement is the guarantee that they will ultimately succeed.
They must learn to look upon the world as a means of healing the separation. Let that statement ring in your mind. I encourage you to write it down and put it on your refrigerator to see for this coming week. The world that you are living in is the means of healing the separation. It is the place where you must bring your willingness to see God. And it is a step that cannot be sidestepped. You cannot wake up without blessing this world first. So stop calling it an illusion. Stop thinking that there's some way to jump ahead, and avoid looking at anything and everything that you're experiencing with the desire to see it through God's eyes, so that it becomes blessed by your willingness to return to your original function of being the presence of love without ever again holding out for another option, a backup.
Raj?
Yes.
Is this what the Course means when it says that somewhere in the Course, I think I remember reading, it said when you look into the eyes of your brother, you're looking into the eyes of your Savior?
You're looking into the eyes of your brother and remembering God. Yes.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. As I said earlier, the only thing that you are provided with that you can attempt to distort into something else is the presence of God. The only material given to you to imagine that you can manipulate is the infinite presence of God. So look at your brother, look at the leaf, look at the tree, look at the water, look at the carpet, the glass, whatever, the burned candle wick, with an interest and curiosity to see God there, to have God revealed. You don't have ugly material world to overcome, you have a perception of the world that you need to abandon. You have a perception of the kingdom of heaven that you need to abandon. And I will keep saying that so that you will grasp that we're not talking about a project of major proportions. It all lies in a change of mind, a sudden shift of perception, a miracle. And the miracle isn't complicated or difficult. It's as simple as a shift of attention. Whether it happens to you tonight or this week or a month from now, it doesn't change the fact that all we're talking about is a light bulb going on, and aha, a shift of perspective, not an overcoming of a lie, of an illusion.
Does forgiveness aid us in this?
Well, what do you think?
Duh.
What are you doing? When you look at the candle wick that is black because it's already been lit before, and you're curious to see God there, you're curious to see the divinity that has to be there, aren't you abandoning whatever thoughts you have about it being a material candle that probably was made for celebration of Christmas, and the flame, burns the wick, but the wax makes the wick last longer, and it's pretty, but eventually it's all going to burn down and disappear and deteriorate and so on. Aren't you forgiving it, your perception that you're casting upon it, when you look at it and say, wow, maybe there's actual divine meaning there, an experience, an inner experience of pure love. And I want to be undefended enough to feel the love and to feel what the meaning of love is right there in that particular configuration. That is forgiving it, your misperceptions, or whatever you think your current correct perceptions are. You see? That's forgiveness. Being willing to abandon the perceptions you would hold it to based upon your education and all the peculiar little beliefs that you have made commitment to that surround it. Yes, forgiveness is involved. And forgiveness is simply saying, I'd like to see what's really there. That's not hard. That's a pleasant occupation.
Just a little willingness.
Yes. Not only a willingness to open up, but a willingness to conceive the possibility that there's more there than matter, more there than an illusion, and that what's there will speak of wholeness and bliss and fullness, not just of its wholeness and fullness and bliss, but yours as well. Yes. Okay. This is a wonderful place to stop for the evening. And it's good to be back together.
Certainly is.
You are welcome.